Hello, we are here with Orsolya Király.
I've been
Mispronouncing.
introduced. I can introduce myself
Yeah, that would be great.
afterwards. So.
And in Utrecht University, which is the oldest university in Hungary, almost like 16th or 17th century, which 17th, which is really prestigious university actually, and we are gonna talk about addictions today, and I'm very excited today actually. The first time I'm talking in English in front of the media. So, all right, would you please introduce to Turkey actually?
Sure. Okay. So thank you for having me. I'm Orsolya Király. I work as a researcher at Utrecht University in Budapest, Hungary, and we mainly do research. And I'm mostly interested in video game addiction, but we are also doing so. We have an addiction research group, and we are dealing with a lot of different addictions. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. My first question is, why do some addictions look socially acceptable while others are stigmatized?
So traditionally, addictions are related to substance use mostly, and so these substance-related addictions has always been problematic. I mean, they caused a lot of dysfunction also in the individual's life, also on the societal level. They become stigmatized, I guess, with drugs, alcohol, tobacco use. However, it needed some time for tobacco use to be recognized that it's harmful. For a long time, the industry really kept it up like it's super fine and no harm at all. Luckily, now it's already clear that it's very harmful, and behavioral addictions appeared more recently. That we realized that not only substances can be addictive or cause addictions, but also some behaviors. And behaviors like gambling. Gambling is the most recognized behavioral addiction. And it's quite clear that gambling addiction or gambling disorder causes significant harm for the individual. But there are also other behaviors that can cause addiction. And some of these are otherwise very positive behaviors or activities like exercise or work. So yes, we just because these activities are usually very praised. If someone works a lot and or exercises a lot and they look beautiful and healthy, no one would, I mean, it's difficult to suspect that these could be problematic as well. And of course, majority of all these behaviors, including video gaming, is usually a fun activity, and it's a positive, so it's a pleasurable leisure time activity or a positive activity. However, in the minority of the individuals, these can also become problematic and cause harm.
And also I think we cannot understand who is who has some addictions like gambling or gaming addictions, but we can easily understand that okay, that person just use it like etc., or something like that, or if even he or she is smoking, we can just smell it, but we cannot understand who is just playing game or who is just gambling on the phone. It's just
who is doing something passionately or the activity causing harm for them. Yes, it's much more difficult to recognize this in the case of behaviors.
My second question is, at what point does passion turn into the addiction?
Yes, that's the most crucial question, I think. And now, at least in the case of gambling and gaming, we have a clear cutoff point or a clear definition in the ICD-11, which says that the crucial is a significant functional impairment. This means that at the point when the person cannot function in their everyday life anymore in a healthy way, then the behavior can be called problematic. And so when they meet a certain definition, that can be labeled even an addiction or a disorder. And for both gambling and gaming, the definition is about losing control, about neglecting other important tasks, responsibilities, and activities, and continuing the behavior despite of the harmful consequences. And if all this causes this significant functional impairment, so meaning that they cannot really function well in their life, then these are the cases which can be labeled a disorder. And those cases where harm is already present but does not meet this threshold, that can be called like a problematic behavior or something. So when symptoms are already present, but they do not reach this cutoff point. And of course, in reality, all this is a continuum. So it's a scale from the completely healthy to the very severe disordered case. It's just in the medical nomenclature. So we really need a cutoff point to be able to diagnose someone, to be able to provide, for example, finance or supported treatment for them. So we need such cutoffs. However, in reality, this is usually a scale, and individuals are placed all over the continuum.
So we should follow the criteria for all of these questions, actually. Right. The other question is, why do well-informed people still fall into addictive behaviors? Sometimes a person has lots of things like car, house, and she or he like highest level in their occupation and etc. But they have also addictions. So sometimes we thought like, okay, addictions can also like, how do you say that? I'm not sure, but in disadvantageous groups have more likely to addictions actually, but
not only.
Yeah, not only
Yes.
actually.
Yes.
So why it is like well-informed people still?
Well, I would say that regarding the etiology of addictions, it's very important that it's always the interplay of at least three different factors. The individual factors, the product or service or behavior related factors, and the environmental factors. The product related factors means that either substances or some behaviors which are pleasurable can cause, so they are addictive, they can cause addiction. However, without the environmental and individual factors, they will not cause addiction to anyone. So it doesn't mean that someone who is trying gambling or plays video games becomes addicted. However, the potential is there. And the individual vulnerability is very complex. It starts from like a genetic predisposition, even until a lot of comorbid psychiatric problems, deficit in self-esteem, or depression, anxiety, potential ADHD. So a lot of problems can cause this, and of course, with the family environment and family dynamics, the health of a family is very important. Even in those families, or in the case of those individuals where apparently they have everything, it may happen that in their childhood, in their life, they have even having a house and a car and a family and everything, they could have unmet basic psychological needs, which can be fulfilled somehow with a substance or a behavior, and which may lead to a problematic state.
Can we also add the curiosity for the beginning for the addictions actually?
I think curiosity is a reason for initiation. So to start to try the activity based on research, it's all the severe underlying factors which contribute to the development of a disorder. So just trying, let's say, you can even try. I don't want to do any promotion, but you can even try and then not become addicted to it. If you are otherwise a healthy person with the basic psychological needs satisfied, so then it's very unlikely that you become addicted to even very like or however, yeah. So people with like inherent deficits are much more vulnerable, and not just to substance use, but even to like very pleasurable activities like gaming or social media use, or it depends on work whether it's the most pleasurable activity or not. But also work can satisfy a lot of needs. I mean, not so work when the feeling of accomplishment, that they are valued because of their work. So all these can contribute to the behavior to become problematic if they are vulnerable.
How did you decide to work on the gaming disorder actually?
Yeah. So by profession, I'm an economist. I don't really like to admit this, honestly, because I don't feel that I'm an economist. But when I was 18, I just didn't know what to learn. And by family pressure, I chose economics. And then I chose within that marketing, because kind of that had the most psychology. And I just very slowly realized that I'm much more interested in psychology and sociology than economics. But I didn't have the strength at that point to change, to start it all over again, or to do both universities parallelly. So I just decided to continue with economics and get the degree. But in the meantime, I already was reading and learning some psychological stuff. And when I finished, I realized that I'm interested in research, because in the marketing we learned some marketing research, which is this survey-based research. So I was really interested in that. And I personally tried some video games, but I have never been a big gamer myself. I'm really not that type, I'm that type who tries it, and if it doesn't work, then I just give it up. I'm not that persistent to try it over, 20, 30 times, and then I will succeed, how gamers are like that. But unfortunately, I'm not like that. So I had some personal experience, but not much. And at one point during university, I had a good friend who lived in a dormitory. So I went to the dormitory often, and he was always playing games. And after some time, I realized that he's playing the same video game for like weeks and months. And I got entirely fascinated. Like, how can this game be that someone is sitting there all day, all week, all months, and playing the same game? And so I began talking with him and checking the game, and it just, I got like completely immersed in that game world, not by playing it myself, but by talking with the play, right? with the guy playing it. And in that time, I was doing a master's in sociology, and I just decided to do my master thesis on this topic, so on like the game world and players in these virtual worlds. And so I tried reading about it, and it completely fascinated me back then and since then, continuously. So it keeps fascinating me since then. And after doing all the masters and everything in economics, then I realized that, okay, I would like to do something with the psychology, but I just don't have the university. And I also realized that, okay, I'm interested in psychology, I'm interested in research, I'm interested in video games. So what could I do? And then I realized that, okay, perhaps I should try doing a PhD in this topic. Yeah. And then I was lucky enough to find Zsolt Demetrovic online. So he worked here at ELTE, and he offered some PhD topics in internet addiction and problematic internet use. And I said, okay, this is close enough to what I'm interested about.
So in which years this is?
This was in 2000, and I started my PhD in 2011. So yeah, so I contacted Zsolt in 2010, and he was really welcoming. And then I got a PhD position here, and I started working with him. And I have been working with him since then. So and he's a really big internationally in all kinds of behavioral addictions. But so we have a smaller team doing research in gaming, and I'm one of them. Yes, and it's a huge opportunity. I'm very happy about it. So that I can work with Zsolt, I can work at ELTE, I can work with my colleagues. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, Addiction Laboratory Lab actually is very famous in all over the world of this university actually. Even not psychology maybe, but the addiction lab and addiction department of this university is very famous in all over the world, I think. So that's why it's really big opportunity to talk with you here. It's
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this interview. So how is the working in this university in ELTE, in your lab? If it is okay for you, may I ask you that what are you doing in the lab, and that responsibilities and future studies?
Yes, it's at one point it's a bit like a virtual lab, so we don't necessarily work physically together most of the time, but we are a big group. It's the addiction research group, and so there are usually more people on these subtopics like pornography use, gaming, social media use, work addiction, gambling. So there are people on all doing research on all these, exercise addiction. We have, so Zsolt Demetrovic is coordinating everything. We are mostly his PhD students or former PhD students and colleagues. And so on the one hand, he won a lot of big grants and could have like really huge projects usually these are comprehensive projects doing research on addictions in general, so both substance and behavioral addictions, on a lot of times on a national level, but with representative samples, on adolescent samples, adult samples. So these are like comprehensive big studies, and which are led by him. And of course, so some of us also have some grants, and these grants are specifically related to our topics. So I have grants for gaming, and some other colleagues have grants for work addiction, for example. And then we are doing these projects. But usually, so we are able to work together whenever it's possible. And also, thanks to Zsolt, we have international collaborators quite a lot. So we, because the ICBA, which is the International Conference on Behavioral Addictions, is a conference not developed, so like created or dreamed on. So Joel dreamed about it and made it happen. So we usually have the opportunity to attend these conferences, and we meet a lot of international colleagues, which is really a huge opportunity. And so we either involve them in our projects, or we are also involved in international projects as like consultants, or we work together. Yes.
For the ICBA, this year you are gonna be in. Will you come to Turkey?
Yes. I really plan to. I really plan to. We already made some. We already registered, and everything is now. We will book the accommodation and everything. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Super. I would like to.
And I haven't been to Turkey yet, so I'm.
Really?
Yeah. And I haven't, not yet. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I plan to stay a bit longer after the conference, because usually the conference is so good that I just don't. How should I say? I cannot leave the conference and go and see Istanbul, because the conference is just too good. Yeah. So I rather stay a few more days to enjoy Istanbul as well.
Thank you very much for your time, and it's just really big pleasure for me, big opportunity to talk and meet with you in LT.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. I hope it is good for our audience actually. If you like it, don't forget to like and put some comments on the video. Thank you.